imagined a scenic road, winding through America's historic heartland in Virginia. The Colonial Parkway. By day, it's a beautiful drive, a link to Jamestown, Williamsburg, and Yorktown. But for a 4-year period in the late 1980s, this picturesque route became the backdrop for a series of terrifying and baffling crimes that remain unsolved to this day. This is the story of the Colonial Parkway Murders, a case that has haunted Virginia for decades. It all began on October 12, 1986. A jogger discovered a car belonging to Kathleen Thomas, a 27-year-old U.S. Naval Academy graduate, and Rebecca Duce, a 21-year-old student at William and Mary. The car was pushed down an embankment near the York River. Inside, there was a purse and some money, but the two women were gone. A search began, and what was found sent a chill through the community. The bodies of both women were discovered inside the car. They had been strangled, and their throats had been cut. The killer had attempted to set the car on fire with diesel fuel, but thankfully, it didn't ignite. The scene was bizarre. There were no signs of a struggle, and robbery didn't seem to be the motive. It was the first act in a terrifying real-life mystery. Almost a year passed, and the community was still on edge. Then, on September 22, 1987, the Parkway claimed its next victims. David Nobling, 20, and Robin Edwards, just 14, disappeared after David had been at his brother's house. David's truck was found abandoned at the Ragged Island Wildlife Refuge, just off the Parkway. The driver's side door was open, the radio was on, and the keys were in the ignition. For 3 days, their families waited in agony. Then, a walker found their bodies along the banks of the James River. Both had been shot in the back of the head. Again, robbery was ruled out. The unsettling pattern was starting to emerge. Young couples in secluded lovers' lane areas, their cars left behind, and a killer who left few clues. The public was gripped by fear. Who was this person, or persons, preying on couples along the Parkway? Law enforcement, including local police and the FBI, were working around the clock, but the cases were incredibly difficult. The crime scenes were exposed to the elements, washing away potential evidence. The killer seemed to be a ghost, leaving almost nothing behind. Was it one person? Was it a group? Was it someone in law enforcement, given the apparent control over the victims? The questions piled up, but the answers remained elusive. The media dubbed the unknown assailant the Colonial Parkway Killer. The killer's pattern seemed to involve targeting couples, but the next case, in the spring of 1988, would slightly deviate from this. On April 10th, two college students from Christopher Newport University, Cassandra Haley and Keith Call, went on their first date. They were last seen at a party, and Keith's car was later found abandoned at the York River overlook on the Colonial Parkway. The car was empty, except for some of their clothes neatly folded on the front seat. Despite extensive searches of the Parkway and the river, Keith Call and Cassandra Haley were never seen again. Their bodies have never been found. The disappearance was eerily similar to the previous cases, but without bodies, it was officially classified as a missing persons case. The link, however, was undeniable. The same terrifying signature seemed to be written all over it. The fear in the Tidewater region was palpable. Parents warned their children about parking in secluded areas. The once romantic spots along the Parkway became places of dread. The FBI and local law enforcement formed a task force, trying to piece together the puzzle. They developed a profile of the killer, likely a white male, intelligent, organized, and possibly with a law enforcement or military background. Someone who could command authority and control his victims without a struggle. But a profile is not a suspect. Without physical evidence or a confession, the profile was just a theory, a ghost they couldn't catch. Then, more than a year later, the silence was broken again, and the killer, or killers, made their most brazen move yet. On October 19th, 1989, the bodies of Anna Maria Phelps, 18, and Daniel Lauer, 21, were found by hunters in a wooded area off Interstate 64, miles away from the Parkway. Anna Maria was Daniel's brother's girlfriend, and they had been heading to Virginia Beach. Daniel's car, a gold Chevrolet Nova, was found abandoned at a rest stop in New Kent County, also far from the Parkway itself. This discovery was different. It wasn't on the Parkway, but the connection was too strong to ignore. Anna Maria had been stabbed, and her body was significantly decomposed, suggesting they had been killed shortly after their disappearance weeks earlier. Daniel's body was too decomposed to determine a cause of death. The location was different, but the victims fit the profile. A young couple mysteriously disappeared. Was the killer changing their hunting ground, or was this a copycat? Most investigators believe this fourth case is intrinsically linked to the others. And with that, the series of murders seemed to stop as suddenly as it began. After 1989, the case went cold. Years turned into decades. Families were left without answers, living in a painful limbo. The FBI held on to the evidence, hoping that one day, advancements in technology could finally break the case open. For the families of the victims, the fight for justice never stopped. Bill Thomas, Kathleen Thomas's brother, became a tireless advocate, working to keep the story in the public eye and pushing law enforcement to re-examine the evidence. He and other family members have fought for years to have DNA testing done on the evidence collected from the crime scenes. And there have been small glimmers of hope. In 2010, the FBI announced they were reviewing the cases, citing new forensic and investigative techniques. Over the years, new DNA tests have been conducted. In 2021, one of these tests yielded a significant breakthrough. DNA found at one of the crime scenes was successfully linked to another crime scene through a new type of advanced DNA testing. This confirmed that at least 2 of the murder scenes were linked to the same unknown suspect. While it didn't identify the killer, it was a huge step forward, scientifically proving a link that had long been suspected. It revitalized the investigation and gave renewed hope to the families that an answer might finally be within reach. However, the case is fraught with complications. Allegations of mishandled evidence from the 1980s have plagued the investigation. Some family members believe crucial evidence, including crime scene photos, has been lost or was poorly preserved, making a modern investigation even more challenging. It's a frustrating aspect of a case that has been cold for so long. Time is the enemy of evidence, but it can also be an ally, as witnesses who were once afraid to speak may now be willing to come forward. So, who was the Colonial Parkway killer? Theories have swirled for over 30 years. Some believe it was a single, organized killer who either died, was imprisoned for another crime, or simply stopped. Others suspect a group of killers, perhaps working together. The theory of a person impersonating a police officer or park ranger is one of the most persistent, as it would explain how the victims were controlled so easily, with no signs of a struggle at the initial encounters. Could it have been a local, or someone just passing through? Dozens of suspects have been looked at over the years, but none have ever been charged. Today, the Colonial Parkway remains a place of stunning beauty, but for those who know its history, it also holds a dark secret. 8 young people were killed or disappeared, their lives cut short by an unknown predator. The cases represent one of the most infamous and frustrating cold cases in Virginia's history. But it is not a forgotten case. Thanks to the relentless efforts of the victims' families, dedicated investigators, and advancements in forensic science, the pursuit of justice continues. The hope is that one day, the ghost of the Parkway will finally be given a name, and the families who have waited for so long will finally get the answers they deserve. If you have any information, no matter how small you think it is, please contact the FBI Norfolk Field Office. You could be the one to finally bring this dark chapter to a close. Thanks for watching, and please consider subscribing for more deep dives into historical mysteries.